Why does this? Why do we even care? Why are we so nervous about this? And we've talked about the reporting company. We've talked about beneficial owners. Why is this a big deal? Why don't we just go out and do the best we can, take a flyer at it, and see what happens? And that comes down to penalties and enforcement.
That's correct. So and I will.
That is section
K. And I'm going to read you a paragraph from section K, number 2. And then we can kind of chat about it. It says, according to the Corporate Transparency Act, a person who willfully violates the BOI reporting can be subject to penalties up to $500 a day for the violation, and it's going to be adjusted for inflation. A person who willfully violates this may also be subject to criminal penalties up to 2 years in prison and a fine up to $10,000. Potential violations include willfully failing to file, willfully filing false information, or willfully failing to correct or update a previous report. I don't know about you, but 30 days to update a report for a client that I see once a year is not worth 2 years in prison and $10,000 fine. That makes me nervous.
What I really find interesting is this law. I mean, I guess it's in effect, but it hasn't even. The deadline hasn't passed yet, and the $500 penalty has already been increased to $591.
There you go.
Because the law,
the inflation,
the law allows you to. Yeah, so it's already gone from $500 to $591, and in theory, the majority of the businesses hadn't even filed the first report yet. So now the penalty is actually almost $600 a day. And what's consistent in all of this, they keep talking about willful. Now, I guess a lawyer has in their mind some sort of legal training on when does ignorance or lack of doing something cross the line and become willful?
Or fraudulent at that point.
Or fraudulent.
Is it a threshold? What is it?
Well, no, because I said, how many days can you claim I just didn't know about it before it becomes willful? Because, and their answer was, well, there is no days. I mean, it could be, and I understand, it could be willful the first day, and it could not be willful 500 days later. I get that from a legal standpoint, but you're asking us to accept responsibility for some of the decisions that are being made, either us being the client or us being the company helping them, and you won't give us examples or anything to help us understand, in your eyes, when does something become willful? Now, what they're telling everybody, which is typical of government, look, this is new. We know it's all new. We're not after the people who make honest mistakes. I get all that, but how you? And we did get one good. I'm really going off base here, but there was a court case called the Chevron case that came out the Supreme Court ruled on a few years ago. Until that case got turned over, they were judge, jury, and executioner. In other words, you couldn't appeal beyond them if you thought what you did wasn't willful and they decided it was. At least now we can take it to court. But then now, how much money are you going to spend going to court? That's better, but it's... So we don't have cases. We don't have examples. We don't have definitions. I get that you're not after what you say is the honest business person, but how are you going to determine those people? Mm-hmm. And Annie, what's your thoughts? This is the crux of why this is hard.
Yeah, I don't want to.
I
think it's too risky. I don't want to be in that position and subject myself to that. I wish that we would get just an extension so that these types of what if and how do you define willful and some examples of when it goes from honest mistake or negligence or ignorance, whatever, to willful. I don't know. That's why we have to enforce having the client make the decision on their own. So as an accountant or tax preparer, even attorney, you're going by what they interpreted, not you interpreted.